Rates and ratios with complex fractions, the third assignment in what is normally a tutorial unit for learning about how to use our TI-84 Plus bright yellow or decorated colorful TI-84 Plus graphic calculators. Since we are away from them, we are going to use Desmos still for this, and I am so pumped. I was lost, confused, even some of the other assignments I've done, these videos, on how to get Desmos to output fractions. We had this decimal to fraction converter. I've now figured out how to get Desmos to give you a fraction, and it was so simple. I cannot believe I did not see it before, but hey, we all learn at our own pace, and that includes me. So without further ado, let's dive in and start looking at what are going to appear to be extremely weird fractions. That's right, you can see 1 and 2 immediately. I love the responses of students as they open this assignment in class normally. I hear a lot of, what? What the hell? Huh? What am I even staring at? What is this? People are not used to seeing complex fractions or fractions within fractions, either on bottom, on top, or both. So first of all, let me have you see the difference between 1 and 2. They look sort of similar, but they're actually very different. The large horizontal line separates the top from the bottom in each case. But notice how on the top fraction, we have an additional smaller fraction on bottom, below our big bar that separates the numerator with the denominator. On the bottom, however, we have our smaller fraction on top. This is really important to see because if you mix it up and do it in a different order, you're going to get it wrong. So number one, let's follow over to Desmos so I can not only calculate this, but show you, I guess it's for number 2 will be the first one, how to get it outputted as a fraction. First thing to do is hit the little slash next to the right shift key. All right, on top, we just have a whole number, 8. Then press down. We want to go to the bottom, and we need to put in 1/7. So 1 slash, now notice when you hit that slash to put the 7 in, we have a smaller fraction with a little bar that's much smaller than this one on bottom. You should get a whole number, like I got 56. This is actually the same thing as doing 8 times 7. Because if you remember your middle school, it's called KCF, keep it, change it, flip it. 8 divided by 1/7 is the same as 8 times 7 over 1, which is the same as 8 times 7. 56. So that's what's really happening here. It may look weird, but don't worry. That's all that's going on. Number 2 is where we finally get to do what I wish I had known a month ago when I started these videos. But hey, what are you going to do? I use the slash again. I've got 4/7 on top, and on bottom, I've just got 2. So make sure you've got your fraction on top this time. And you know you've done this right if you get this disgusting decimal. Now I tried converting this into my decimal to fraction link, and it did not work. And that's where I started to panic. I thought, oh, am I even going to be able to do this video without my graphing calculator? And then I started researching online, and somebody pointed out maybe what you've known out there or stumbled upon yourself. And in that case, I'm sorry for putting you through such torture. Look over here to this circle that's so close to this box that we have been doing every calculation on. If you just simply hit that circle, oh my gosh, that's all it takes. If you want to get back to a decimal, oh my gosh, back and forth. That's actually probably the best way to convert it to a decimal to a fraction is within the calculator itself. You probably don't even need to go to our friends at Soup Calculator. Unbelievable. Same thing for this simplifying fraction. Amazing. And yet I have no problem giving this other online calculator some love because somebody spent some time creating that website and deserves some love. There it is, though. Put it in as a fraction, 2/7, and just click this little fraction circle right there. Amazing, just as it says in this problem. I cannot believe that I did not know it before that. Learning so much during this time right now. Okay, then you're going to notice that this is going to be like one of them up top again, where our extra fraction is going to be on bottom. So you could simply just replace the numbers here. Now I've got 6 on top And on bottom, I've got 6 over 13. So it's the same thing as 6 times 13 over 6, where the 6's cancel, and you just get 13. All right, number 4 is the first time where our complex fraction features a numerator and a denominator that we add an extra fraction to. So let's create a new blank right here since this is brand new. Look what happens if I put an extra fraction up there and then an extra one on bottom. You have to be very careful here. Make sure when you're putting in your extra fraction that this big line stays in the middle. If you don't do that, if you put, like, watch what could happen. I could keep adding extra fractions like on top. It gets really crazy fast. You don't want that. You want to simply have a fraction on top, a fraction on bottom, and then very easily get to see that the big line is in between them. If you don't have that, you've done it wrong, and you need to fix it. And once again, a decimal. How do I convert this decimal to a fraction? Let's just press this button. I'm so glad this is here. Wish I'd known about you earlier. 6 over 11. So cool. I knew Desmos had to be smarter than I was giving it credit for. It's got all these other complex buttons. It should have that fraction button, and it did. All right, another one. So let's just replace our numbers here. 3 over 11, 10 over 33 to keep the big bar in the middle, and 9 over 10. It stayed in fraction mode. All right, I'm going to keep this in fraction mode as I do number 6. So now we're going to practice using these complex fractions in what are called applicable settings, quote unquote, with these theoretical word problems. Now I know that word problems are often not your favorite, so don't worry, I'm going to walk you through each step of these just like I walk you through each step of other problems, and you'll get it in no time. All right, here we go, number 6. Luke wrote 22 entries in his journal. Wow, he's a reflecting guy. Good job, Luke. It took him 5.5 hours to write them all. That is commitment. Assume each entry took the same amount of time. Again, highly unrealistic, but for the sake of the math problem, we'll just go with it. Luke wrote blank entries per hour. Write your answer as a simplified integer, fraction, or mixed number if necessary. So the first thing to know about word problems is they're really just puzzles trying to get you to figure out the secret code of translating words into numbers and calculations. This blank is always our biggest hint. Anytime you see blank, that means that's where our answer is going to go. And then look at the words around it. That'll tell you directions of how to get your answer. It says entries per hour. Now remember from our rate conversion assignment that we did last time, that per always means divide. So we need to put our entries divided by hours. Or we can make a fraction with our entries on top and our hours on bottom. And in general, as we do these word problems, per is going to go in the middle. Our first word in front of per is going to go on top for our numerator, and our second word is going to go on bottom as our denominator. So entries per hour. Let's go over to our fraction. And we can see that on top we have a whole number. So I'm going to go to this first one here. On top I've got 22. And on bottom I need to do a mixed fraction. So I'm going to add a whole number in front of this fraction. 5.5. So I got to be able to click. I'll just click in there. It's tough to hit the arrows to get to the exact spot of the fraction. And we see that it's 4. He could write 4 entries per hour at that pace. Yay! And we're going to follow these directions for all of these word problems, at least until number 10, where it gets a little different. During a snowstorm, 3 3/7 feet, again, who measures it like that? Nobody, but just go with it, fell in 4 hours. Assume the snow fell at the same rate throughout the storm, also unrealistic. During the storm, snow fell at a rate of blank feet per hour. Feet per hour. So we're going to put feet, and then our fraction sign, and then hours goes on bottom. Now we've got our mixed number on top. So let's go down to number 3. I'm going to add in front. So I've got 3 3/7 fell in 4 hours. 16/7. Now I need to write that as a simplified integer, fraction, or mixed number. All right. Oh, wait. Hold on. I'll go to that later. I am writing this wrong, right? There's a 43. There we go. We are going to have to convert it to a mixed fraction later. But for this one, once you type it in right, you'll see that it's just a fraction. Now, you can hit this little fraction button, and type it in that way, or you just use the same slash on your keyboard next to the right shift key, and the fraction will appear automatically. You're on fire. Better put us out. 8. Okay, this is the one that we're going to have a mixed fraction for. All right, I'm going to click down here because now I've got fractions on top and bottom. I've got 4.5 on top because it's miles per hour. So miles on top, hours on bottom. And so hours, let's go with 1 1/4. Okay, so this is the one that I was skipping ahead last time when I inputted that wrong. We have this improper fraction, and we need to input it as a mixed number. Now, actually, this is a good thing. Let's go over to our simplifying fraction. Calculator soup button that hopefully you've left open. Even if I never need the decimal to fraction one ever again, because I figured out how to do it in decimals. This will still help us. It converts it to a mixed fraction for us, 3 3/5. 3 3/5. If you didn't write it in a mixed number, and you're joining this video at this time, that's what happened. That's why you missed it. Just hit redo, go back, and get it right. 2 problems left. All right, Victor read 3 1/4 books. Again, who measures books in fractions? But there you go. Over 52 days last summer. Good for Victor. Wow. It took the same amount of time to read each book. Again, so unrealistic. However, for the sake of the problem, books per day. So books over days. Let's go back to Desmos. Go to the time I have my fraction on top. Even my mixed number here. 3 1/4 over 52. 1/16 of a book per day. This problem is so unrealistic. All the books are the same length. It takes him the same amount of time to read each of them. He does the same pace every day, as if life doesn't change every day. But whatever. It's just, the whole point is to get us to practice. And finally, it's a Disneyland problem. I am filming this in the middle of this pandemic, where if you're watching this in the future and the whole world's back to normal, celebrate that, including if you have the opportunity to go to Disneyland. Because Disneyland has been closed for months. Way, way, way longer than it ever has been in the history since it opened in many, many years. So this problem right now is especially weird to do, and yet it feels kind of nice to do it. It's nostalgic. And I have enjoyed going to Disneyland twice for the first time in my life recently. I didn't go till I was over 30, so if you're out there and you haven't gone yet, especially if you're younger, don't worry. You can go later. It's awesome. But anyway, wait till it reopens. Can't go right now. Rodrigo and his family drove to Disneyland for their vacation. In the first 1/3 hour of the trip, they drove 14 miles. If they travel at the same rate for 5 1/3 hours total, they will travel blank miles. Write your answer as a simplified integer, fraction, or mixed number if necessary. So this is the first time we have 3 different numbers. And the first thing we're going to have to do is figure out basically how fast is Rodrigo driving? What's his pace? So we need to figure out miles per hour. So I want you, and I will clear all this because this problem's confusing enough. So put how many miles on top and then the fraction on bottom. So miles over hours, miles per hour. That tells you how fast he's driving. 42 miles an hour. Which is so slow. He's not on the highway at that point, I guess. And now we take that and we need to multiply it times how many hours he drove in this car that I guess is not working very well. Okay, I guess we're going to have to add. Yeah, there we go. Add it like that. 224 miles he lives away from Disneyland, which we could Google how far that is and where he might live depending on what direction he's driving. We know he's not driving east because that would be in the middle of the ocean, but he could be living north and driving south. He could be living south and driving north, and he could be living east and driving west, or some combination. There you go. The big winner, the MVP of this assignment is no doubt that beautiful, beautiful button that appears on this side when you have a decimal or fraction. I'm so glad to learn this. I'm so glad to teach this in the future. And right now, Calculator Soup just continues to get some love from those other lessons that I used, both before and after. 100%. It took me much longer than you because I was figuring out how to use that Desmos button. But for you, this video is about 15 minutes, a little over that, so I'm going to stop it here. When we come back, we will do the unit assessment that combines everything in our whole conversions, measurement, beginning of the year unit, and I look forward to that. I'll see you then. Until then, have a great day. Bye-bye.